Hey, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the different data types that are used in JSON.
This video is brought to you by EpiPies Academy.
And last time we saw that we can use strings. So strings are with quotes around it. So let's create a JSON object. And right now it's still going to be a JavaScript object. So we're assigning a value to it. And we can just call it my object. And then the curly brackets in order to indicate it's a JavaScript object. Then going down within the code. And let's create some contents in here. So we've got the my string. Then make sure to add in the colon to separate out the name from the value. And then on the right hand side we've got the value. So this is going to be a string. And because we're trying to stay with a JSON format, make sure you double quote it. I know with JavaScript we can go with single quotes if we want as well. Next, let's do a number, so my num, and again double quoting for the name. And then on the right hand side is the value, so the value is going to be a number value, so you don't quote around a number value. There's can also have objects within your object, so an object, and we know with an object it's represented with the curly brackets. So we're just going to put one more object in here and give it a name and then a value that's associated with it. And always comma separate out all the different name pair values that are contained within there. There's also arrays, and arrays again colon separate it, and this is indicated with the square brackets. And arrays, just like objects, can hold multiple pieces of data, and they can also hold strings, numbers, and various different data types as well. So again, comma separate it out. There's also booleans. So booleans are either true or false, and they don't have quotes around it, so indicating it that it's true. And then lastly, we've got the null option. So the my null, and this is just the word null. So again, there's no quotes around it because that's the proper structure of the JSON format. Adding in a space there, and we'll log it out into the console. And then we'll also try it within the JSON lint. So that's our object. And also, because I'm using Chrome browser, it outputs the numbers with blue as well as the booleans with blue. Null is going to be kind of grayed out. And then arrays come with a length, and these are index values for the items within the arrays. So we've got hello world and 1 and the index values that are associated with it. And then we've got the object, and the object, as we know, it's a name pair value. So if you were to take this, just the curly brackets, don't include the colon, don't include the equal sign, and let's try that within the JSON lint and just see how that translates into valid JSON. And it is in fact valid JSON. We're able to output it as valid JSON. So those are the different data types that are available within JSON. So the JSON format is almost identical to what we get with JavaScript objects. With JavaScript, you're going to find that there's also the option without the quotes for the name, and as well there's combinations of functions that can also be included within the JavaScript objects that are not going to be valid JSON. So even though it looks the same, there are differences. And with JSON, the keys must be strings, so that means that we need to double quote around them. And once the JSON object is in JavaScript, it can always be modified and updated, as we saw in the last lesson. So if you wanted to update the my object, you can update it, you can add to it, you can select the value. So if I want to update the string value, that would update and be the new string value. So when we refresh it, we've got the new updated value within the string. You can also do that with the bracket notation, where it does use the square brackets, and you do have to quote for the name. And then you can associate the value on the opposite side of the equal sign. And we save that, refresh it. Now the object has been updated, and it's got the bracket notation contained within it. And this is a preference within coding, and in some instances when you are using JSON, because these are string values, you might encounter spaces, and if you do encounter a space, then you definitely need to use the bracket notation in order to utilize it within your JavaScript code. So try this out. treat an object with various data types, and you can be ready to move on to the next lesson.